Welcome back, Tribe. I have one here from Psych Hacks. Why men get married? It's not about you.
Ryan Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is why men get married. So this episode is for the ladies. So I've been doing a lot of consultations with women these days. And while my consultations with men tend to run the gamut with respect to the topics under consideration, every single one of my consultations with women has been on one single topic, namely, how do I get married, Orion? And these conversations have been very enlightening, to say the least. Make sure you listen all the way to the end. One of the many things I've learned is that a lot of you ladies don't seem to appreciate that men don't approach the idea of marriage like you do. In fact, at any given moment, most men are not going to be interested in the prospect of settling down. And this creates a problem for you women because it can be very difficult to differentiate between the men who might be interested in getting married and the men who just aren't. You certainly can't tell the difference just by looking at them. However, while every situation is different, some general rules tend to apply. Leaving aside the question of whether men should get married, today I'm going to explain to you why men do get married when they choose to do so. In the vast majority of cases, men don't get married to their ideal woman. It's not like the movies, in which a confirmed bachelor is persuaded to tie the knot when the right woman comes along. That's not how it works for men. In the vast majority of cases, ladies, listen real close. Men get married to a woman who is good enough when everything is working. This means, ladies, that being the perfect woman is less important than choosing the right moment, and that being perfect is less important than being unproblematic. You have to appreciate that from the perspective of any relatively sane man. Starting a family is an enormous responsibility. No reasonable man is going to do that when he is feeling financially insecure, or his career prospects are uncertain, or he hasn't yet secured his place in the world, or conversely, when you threaten to leave the relationship, or you are emotionally volatile, or you nag, or complain, or criticize, or provoke, or neglect, or otherwise create unnecessary problems for him. Like I said, a man gets married when everything is working, both in his career and in his relationship. Starting a family when everything is not working is irresponsible. It's not a good idea to bring children into the world when material conditions are unstable, uncertain, or insufficient. And any decent man is going to appreciate that fact. The right woman at the wrong time does nothing to change this. What's more, a man who hasn't yet achieved the status, influence, or professional success you would like to enjoy will be very reticent to start a family because of how much time, energy, and attention a wife and children require. Time, energy, and attention that could otherwise be channeled into their personal and professional development. So men who, for whatever reason, haven't yet arrived at material stability or who haven't yet found their place in the world are not going to be interested, nor should they be interested.
Exactly. Like I say, all the time I've told you guys, work hard in your 20s, then you get to play in your 30s and choose who you want to settle down with. Settling down and finding the one when you're in your 20s is a complete waste of time. You can't. You'll be outcompeted by every older guy. She's constantly going to be looking at men that have way more than you. It's just not a good idea. And you're investing your time, all this energy into keeping a woman happy in your 20s during the critical moments of your life where you should be building so you could secure your future later in your 30s onward. Women cost money. And more importantly, they cost time. Time, you can't buy that back, dude. Every day spent with her is the day lost you could have invested into yourself and gotten ahead. You really care about a woman? You spend a lot of time with them. They do require a lot of attention, obviously, because they love you and that's your partner. Those of you in a relationship understand just how limiting this is to your prospects of competing with a guy that's single and doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife or a whole family to deal with. We know, we see it firsthand. Now, the other side of this coin that's hard to talk about, which people don't like to say out loud, is that the quality of women has dropped dramatically. They don't make them how they used to anymore. That's the truth. Getting married today carries a ton of risk for a man. Not only do you have to work extremely hard to build yourself up and become stable on your own 2 feet, But when you finally get to the point to become stable enough to take care of a family, a woman can simply walk away with the government supporting her and destroy everything you've ever worked for. We no longer have the same socially backed, socially reinforced norms like shaming divorce that we used to. It was shameful to divorce. You were told to do anything and everything possible to work it out with your partner. You know what the message is today? Just leave him. That's your starter husband. Just leave him. Go be an independent boss, babe. Oh, woke up 30-something, don't know what you want to do. Identity crisis? Oh, just leave them, sleep around. Sex in the City style. People don't value their vows anymore today. And that's a big reason why men have turned their back, on top of the court biases with divorce and family courts as well. It just doesn't make sense. In the West, at least, with the current laws on the books, in the current narrative in the culture, and what women are being propagandized into believing, it makes zero sense for a man to get married today. Even when the right woman comes along, there's no need to invite the government in your life. The sanctity of marriage, the institution of marriage, has been turned into a complete joke today. And the only reason you should ever consider marriage as a man, and hopefully you only do outside the West, is obviously it's for the kids. It's two people coming together. It's for the kids. Once you have kids, it's about the kids. It's no longer about yourself. Unfortunately, we live in a very narcissistic, egoistic, and greedy, selfish society today where everybody's looking after their own, or themselves rather, even at the cost of their own kids. Women, regularly, we see it on the channel, willing to destroy their entire marriages, willing to destroy the lives of their children just for their feelings, just because they've been propagandized, they've been influenced by the internet, by their cell phones, by social media. Crazy to consider as a man today, marriage in the West, dude, no matter the kind of woman. That's just the truth.
In getting married. Why?
And I forgot the other side of the coin is how many women are still feminine. How many women still want a family? How many women look at a man as a positive force in their life, as an addition to their lives, as a part that comes together to make a whole instead of being held back, internalizing misogyny, got to stick it up to the man and patriarchy, looking at it from a lens of competition, adversarial energy. How many women are there left truly in the West that have the feminine mentality that match their grandmothers, that want a man to lead the household, that want to be stay-at-home mothers, that only care about the children and raising them, and don't scoff at cooking for their husband? Not many. That's the problem. It's not many left, man. And men's solution is getting a passport and finding them overseas.
Because it's not about you. It's about his moment in life. The upshot of this should be obvious. Women, if you want to get married sooner as opposed to later, you absolutely need to target a man who is stable, who is financially successful, and who already has attained to some status in the world. And this generally means older men.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time to do all of these things. And there's only so much a man can do to hurry it along. In general, a man who has everything else in place will eventually turn his attention to starting a family. Haven't your girls read Jane Austen? Like, the first line of Pride and Prejudice is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." Correct. It doesn't go the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because once a man has a wife, it's harder for him to possess a good fortune. This is because the wife tends to use up not only the fortune, but the time, energy, and attention needed to create additional fortune as well.
Yep.
You women are expensive. And when we're dealing with you, we're not dealing with anything else. In any case, Austin was right. The fortune has to come first. So target older men because they're more likely to have it. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. I'm also proud to announce that I'll soon be publishing my book, The Value of Others. So if you'd like to learn more about that, then you can go to my website and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're looking to book a paid consultation. Link is in the description. Let's get back to it. Now, targeting older men is especially important to consider if you're a woman looking to find a husband in a major city like New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles. The cost of living in these cities is so insanely high that men need a lot more money to feel like they have enough to take on dependents. Like, it's hard enough to have a decent life as a single person in these places. Throw in a wife and kids, and a lot of guys are going to feel like they first need to increase their earning potential or their net worth by an order of magnitude. And it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. So that's one.
The economic factors are one of the biggest ones as well. Think about it. How could you possibly start a family when you can't even buy a house? Dude, nobody qualifies anymore. The inflation in the housing prices today has absolutely skyrocketed. Most people in my generation and the younger ones will never get to own a home. Most of them will never be able to buy a home. It has escaped them completely. Having your own place is the number one thing you need to start a family. Where else could you find stability? Are you going to keep moving from apartment to apartment? You're going to try to rent your entire... You want a place that you can call your own, a home base, a safe place. Renting out a place isn't going to do that. And how much income do you think you have in excess to spend on extra mouths to feed today? Even on a dual income household, think about it. You're stretched thin just to make it, just to survive on your own. You want to add dependence to that? Very select few people today could even achieve what the traditional setup was, where the woman stays at home and the man goes to work. That's actually become just a dream today. That reality has escaped everybody since like the early 2000s. Now, the dual income households are a standard. It's absolutely needed. And your income still gets crushed on things like daycare, and God knows what gets put in your kid's head when you're both gone working all day, having strangers watch your kid. Imagine you come together, you get married, you work hard, slave away at work, and yet in the back of the mind, you're thinking constantly about your children and what they're doing and what's going on at daycare, and are they being looked after and taken care of and given attention? And you know what the truth is? No, they're not. They're one of 30 kids in the daycare class. That hourly worker doesn't give a shit. And they cost you thousands of dollars a month just to have your kid neglected somewhere, because that's what it takes to survive in the world today. Isn't that crazy? And they wonder why we're headed for population collapse. They wonder why people aren't having kids, why people aren't getting married, why starting a family is so hard for the younger generation. Look at the economic model we're under. It's a complete failure. We're headed towards extinction. Clearly, this isn't working. If we can't sustain population without mass immigration, then the culture is rotten, the economic model is rotten, and nature will in due time do what nature always does: stamp out inefficient systems, inefficient cultures. It is what it is. Let's see what he says at the end here.
Still young. And here's the most important part of all this. It's the most important part because it's the part you women actually control. Men get married when everything is working, especially in the relationship. Every problem that you unnecessarily introduce into the relationship is a stumbling block that you're throwing in your own path. Why? Because when a man is thinking of getting married, he's going to look at his woman and think, could I deal with this for the rest of my life? That means if you're issuing demands and ultimatums, he's going to think, am I going to have to deal with demands and ultimatums for the rest of my life? And you know what? I don't care who he is not going to want to deal with demands and ultimatums for the rest of his life. So why the fuck would he sign up for that? Same thing with jealousy or criticism or laziness or emotionality or judgmentalism or sexlessness or any of the hundreds of things that women are subject to bringing to their relationships. To get married as a woman, you do not need to be hot. You do not need to be charming. You do not need to be brilliant or accomplished or anything nearly so positive. You have to be unproblematic. That's it. Because a man's imagination will magnify and extend every problem that you introduce into the relationship into the indefinite future. Trust me, this is enough to...
So I always say be his peace. That's what it means. If you could satisfy that tenant, you're in the money. He's going to keep you around forever. You cause problems. You have a stupid mentality. You want to go party out with the girlfriends. You want to make them look like an idiot in public. You want to cause fights. You want to argue about who takes the trash out. Sick of cooking. Sick of being fit, friendly, feminine. Sick of doing your duties as a woman in a relationship. That's your ass. There goes the ring. Gone. See ya. The women that successfully get a man to marry them and hold on to him is the women that make that guy feel at peace. That's all it is. You make a guy feel at peace when he walks through the door, like all his problems and his stress melt away. I've said it before. You got to beat that man off you with a stick. There's no getting rid of it. He is hooked for life. Women have no game anymore. Women have lost all that old school knowledge because of feminism, because of the gynocracy, because of the disgusting, depraved culture that we have today that teaches you about short-term wants and needs instant dopamine now with no thought to your long-term consequences, no long-term planning. And this is the world you get today, where women tried to hold on to men purely through sex by opening up their legs as quick as possible, by doing bedroom acrobatics, by showing half their body online naked already on Instagram, by over-sexualizing themselves, objectifying themselves, doing the exact things feminism fought against, actually. They wanted women to be perceived as men are, based on their character first, physicality second. Nope. They straight up went into hyperdrive on objectification and sexualization. And it's unfortunate because that doesn't differentiate you from what every other woman can do. Spreading your legs is easy. Being a man's piece, a little harder. And we live in a world today where people choose the easy way. So keep leading with your kitty, and you're going to keep getting treated like exactly you deserve. The same way when a man leads with his wallet and he's a little simp, he gets treated like one. And women say, well, he deserved it. He had no spine. All right. Takes two to tango. And that advice applies for you too. Anyways, if you want to see the full episode, that's Why Men Get Married from Psych Hacks. Let me know what you guys think about today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.